If one is imagining poverty, carelessly imagining it, there will be promptings of nature to bring conditions that will manifest poverty. Once you keep imagining, nature will give the promptings, and these things will move towards manifestation. So your spirit imagines things because the Great Spirit imagined. And what was imagined is what we call creation. Beloved brothers and sisters, imagination. We always imagine things. What are we doing in that process? Imagination is something that the Great Spirit uses for there to be this drama. And because we are part of the Great Spirit, we have the same ability. I have always said what the Great Spirit has, we also have. What the ocean has as its constituent, what is inside it, the same is inside the drops that we take from the ocean. Once again, if you take a container, maybe a cup, and you fetch some water from the ocean, the qualities of the ocean, the characteristics, especially we find it to be salty, and the water you collected will definitely be the same. The contents in the ocean water, it will be the same as the ocean water in the cup. So your spirit imagines things because the Great Spirit imagined. And what was imagined is what we call creation. The truth is that the whole, which is Great Spirit, is so powerful. The imagination itself appears to be so empowered, so vivid, so clear. That is why the universe appears to be so real. But it is imagination of God. Since our spirits are the same as God, then we do the same as Great Spirit does. The tendency to imagine, the same tendency is inside us. So we imagine. Now, when the Great Spirit imagines and things become like real, almost. But of course, when we do it, it has secondly reality because The Great Spirit is the greater presence, and just a small portion is doing this separate imagination. All the great things that the human has done came out of imagination. You imagine it first, and then it is in motion to manifesting. There are certain conditions it requires to manifest. In the first place, when you imagine, it is already manifest in the internal realm. It takes a while with certain conditions, then it manifests in the external realm as well. When the Great Spirit in totality does the same thing, because of the magnitude of power, it happens both externally and internally instantly. And this is why the human looks to the Great Spirit for miracles. Because what the Great Spirit imagines, it doesn't take time to happen. So the human, there is always something slow, even though it's the same procedure. When Great Spirit imagines, it manifests in the internal realm, but the power of motion is so strong that moving from there to manifestation is like instant. On the other hand, the human functioning in lower frequency stages, we imagine, and our imagination is the same. It is also in the internal realm. What we have imagined exists in the internal realm. Sometimes that imagination, if it is not powered by our spirit, if we don't concentrate on it much, if we don't really give it emotion, feeling, then it is so weak that it may not even manifest on the external at all. A lot of things we imagine, but they do not come into external manifestation, even though they manifest first in the internal realm. But we need to really give it spiritual energy, spiritual force. And if you back it with spiritual force, it becomes alive. So, most of the things that the human has been able to achieve, create, they were all from the internal realm, and we put so much focus, so much energy into it. That is why those things in the long run manifest. There are very big things, yet they are not bigger than the mind. When we imagine them, then they can also have their existence. We have the great things like the airplane. Humans imagined it, and by and by it came into manifestation. Of course, the imagination, when it is to come into manifestation, because it is powered by so much spiritual energy, when it happens that way, then it causes or it prompts the humans to go into activity as conditions for it to manifest on the physical plane. So when one imagined the airplane, then the promptings will come from the spirit, and people will get the intuitive guidance. They will have all that is needed for it to manifest on the physical plane. Yes. So on our individual basis, when we are imagining things carelessly and we are emotional about them, they are going to manifest. And if it is positive, fine. But if it happens to be negative, that is trouble. We've been imagining a lot of things which are really negative, and they come to manifestation, and the same human is confused. Where from all these? It came from our own imagination. Sometimes we are imagining doom. We are imagining things which are disaster, and they can really turn everything upside down, and we keep imagining them. When it is like that, there will be promptings for us to do certain things that will bring such imagination into manifestation. The law is the same, whether it's positive or negative. Let's see this example. Humans imagining doomsday, that everyone is going to really be caught up by disasters. We concentrate on it so much. And then the promptings of nature will start happening, and some people will go into things that will bring disaster. Example is the COVID-19. Example is also the AIDS or HIV and all those things. When these things are happening, the humans are thrown into despair, fear. But we created them. We imagined them. Once you keep imagining, nature will give the promptings, and these things will move towards manifestation. They will happen. In a situation we call golden age, nobody imagines doom. Nobody imagines disaster. They only imagine the good things, what we call heavenly conditions. And once you imagine these things, there will be promptings to have these things. If one is imagining poverty, carelessly imagining it, there will be promptings of nature to bring conditions that will manifest poverty. Somewhere people are imagining great things, then there will be promptings of nature to go through processes to make it manifest. Then they have great things. Sometimes, just one person, especially a leader, a pioneer, comes and imagines, let's say, freedom. And the imagination is powered by so much feeling. Then nature will bring promptings all around to make it happen. So, whatever you apply your imagination to, nature will bring promptings to support it to manifestation. If this principle, you imagine negative things, nature will bring promptings for it to manifest. That is it. So in our own personal lives, we need to use our imagination properly. Don't imagine things. We see sometimes children are watching television and they are given war films to watch, and they see the guns and they imagine one day getting that gun, holding it this way, using it that way, the way somebody used it in a stylish way of waving the gun and shooting. And the imagination becomes so strong as the child is seeing the same thing over and over, over and over. Then nature will give promptings to work out so that such things become manifest. And it gets to a point, that child you call innocent, you don't know what came upon him, he took a gun and shot somebody. Imagination. It can be such a good thing, it can also be such a bad thing. So, especially the kids, we should expose them to things they imagine that will bring good. Yes. You go to school, you're learning, let's say architecture, and you imagine certain buildings and you see them like intuitively giving you imagine, and you focus and you give it a feeling that it is something one day you can bring about. And nature will prompt the circumstances to let it happen one day, one day. And because we are one, the same on the spiritual level, in the subconscious we share the same. So some of the imaginations of the ancients are still receiving promptings of nature and they are happening. And when it happens like that, we might think it came from nowhere. No. It has been imagined in the past. Yes, that is why it is happening even now. As we fly in an airplane, the human has been imagining flying, being in the air. And we look at the birds, and in this way, when it is so strong, nature arranges how it will manifest. So my imagination is a wonderful tool, but it can give us good, it can also give us bad. Let us watch out how we imagine. Thank you.